You're now listening to D&D live on demand.
What up, world? It's your man DH, and we're back with another episode of Breaking Command, a D&D football podcast. As always, I got my partner in crime, D Mitty, who's live on location at the job that pays him. D Mitty, what's up, bro?
Feeling good, feeling great. How about you, my boy?
Hey, man, feeling good, man. You know, we always had to pop in here whenever there's some news breaking. So that's what's happening right now. There is current news breaking about the Washington Commanders, and we're going to get into that momentarily. But I want to remind you, I know it's been a while, but if you have not, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a friend. And get on this YouTube page, because I'm telling you, man, right after the draft, we're going to have a lot of programs, a lot of big-time guests to discuss what the Commanders did in the draft, as we are, one day before the draft starts.
Draft Eve.
Yes, indeed. But do us a favor, make sure you like, subscribe, share with a friend. If you feel so inclined to leave us a 5-star review, you can get your 5 seconds of fame. That's it. That's all. And of course, we appreciate you coming back. I know this probably was like, wait, I got a notification from Breaking Command. They doing a show? What? Yes.
Yes, sir.
It's a quick version right here, but we're gonna get into it. We ain't even gonna hold you, man. We're gonna get into it right here. And as you can see right there on the bottom of the screen, the Commanders declined to pick up Chase Young's 5th-year option. D Mitty, your first initial thoughts about the news that was broken by Nikki Javala of the Washington Post.
That Chase Young should now put the film out there on why he deserves an extended contract. I feel like based on what he has put on film, he is not deservingly so of the money that's garnered by those who have put out that type of film of garnering 17 million or less or what have you, around that ballpark of money. Chase has to perform to the extent of what Deron Payne, John Allen, Terry McLaurin, those of his brethren on that Washington Commander team have done to be able to get their extensions. Just simply put it.
And D Mitty, it's not uncommon for this to happen around the league, right? Especially with guys like Chase Young, who did have an explosive rookie season, being the D-Roy, the rookie of the year defensively, and then having, a big-time injury to an ACL, and then slow walk and not really be able to get back into the mix. So starting this 4th year, the Commanders have the option to decide if they want to pick up on this 5th-year option or not, to basically have some control for the upcoming season. And the Commanders decline to do that. And to your point, I understand and agree with it wholeheartedly. The game is not based upon potential, especially after you've already been drafted. They only get that one time, and that's when you're drafted into the league, where you get the potential money. Right now, it's about what have you done. And if we just look at everything on the surface, taking emotion and feelings aside, he hasn't done enough to garner 17 million per season going forward, especially with the fact that you're going to have some choices to make when it comes to paying guys. D Mitty, we discussed this earlier in the Twitter spaces with dude. Shout out to the 54th, man. We discussed this earlier about being in this situation. Don't you kind of, as a general manager, anticipate something like this happening when you hit on all of your defensive line picks? They hit on all their defensive line picks coming up through the draft. Payne got paid last year. Before that, Jonathan Allen got paid. And now you're going to have Sweat and Chase Young up on the block. Isn't this kind of like an anticipated situation from a general manager perspective?
Even if it wasn't from the same room, going back to what I just said before, when you have draft picks that are drafted that high and they are in a situation where they have a 5th-year option available, you have to come to this situation where you are going to either extend that player or you're going to motivate that player. And let's just be realistic in this game, in this business of NFL and professional sports, it's a business. And if the Washington Commanders feel like at the end of this 4th season for Chase Young, he does not deserve the type of money that a 5th-year option wants, they can then still offer him a contract, if I'm not mistaken. They do have a time period where they can still offer him an extension, but not to the degree of a top 2 pick 5th year or his positional value extension. They can offer him an extension based on, hey, this is where we see you at going forward with this team.
And with that, D Mitty, I mean, the idea of a trade came up. Of course, people figure, well, if this means you're not going to keep him, so you trade him, right? That idea came up, and what some of the compensation that people are saying is just not real. This is not Madden, right? People think that you're going to be able to put him on the block and get a first round pick for him. No, that's not the case. Only way you'd get a second round pick is if somebody really falls in love with Chase Young and really wants him. And that's even far fetched. I think the highest draft pick you could get for Chase Young right now is a third round pick. If you did decide to trade him. And then on top of that, teams are not going to trade you for Chase Young because they'd have to re-sign him, because you're not going to waste any draft picks on somebody that's going to come up for a deal. It would be a sign and trade type situation. So when the idea and the notion of trades came up, D-Mitty, what did you think about that? Just hearing those options.
When you look at the situation of trading for Chase Young, to me that brings in the aspect of signing and trading. So that means that the Washington Commanders will have to sign to a contract, correct, and then trade him. If I'm not mistaken. And with that being said,
it would be the team essentially that he's going to trade with would negotiate before he's traded, because they're not going to trade. They're not going to complete the trade unless he signs and they have a deal agreed upon.
Right, because he only has this 1 year guaranteed as far as a contract. So with that being said, that's a lot, and we're right here on draft eve. So what sense would it make for any team right now to trade for a Chase Young and take on this when his value is right now at a third round grade or lower as far as compensation? So it's all about the motivation on the field that is for Chase.
What fans don't realize is that if he was as good as you're thinking he is, there wouldn't even be an option to trade him. No. Like it would be out of the question. You wouldn't even think about it, right? And then remember, some of these same people said they should have traded Daron Payne when they weren't able to come to an agreement last year before the season started. Some people had said they should trade him, get something for him. And I'm like, no, like they don't understand how the business of football works, man. This happens all the time. I definitely believe it's a motivational tactic for him to understand that, look, if I want to get the money that I think I'm deserved, I have to play for it and I have to show that I'm better. There's only one drawback to the scenario and the situation that I think isn't partly an issue with it. And I think it's the posturing of Ron Rivera and the management staff when they had those press conferences. Sometimes Ron Rivera can be a little too free with some of his expressions. He doesn't really hold the cards to his chest, and he talks a lot. And by a lot of times when he says stuff in the media, he's saying it in the media to get to the guy. And most cases, I'm pretty sure the guy knows. Like we said, this is not the first time Chase Young knew he wasn't getting the 5th-year option. But I think Ron Rivera could do a little bit better about holding the cards a little bit and saying, maybe something to effective to say when you ask her, hey, Chase Young's 5th-year option coming up, what are you going to do? What are you guys going to do? Well, we're going to evaluate it, and we're going to do our best to make the best decision for the team. We love Chase. We think he's a great fit here. We're going to continue to work, and now it's essentially about just finding the best deal that can work for both sides of it.
Absolutely.
Boom, cut and dry.
Absolutely. And when you think about this team where it is, you don't really want to give up a Chase Young with that type of potential when you have incoming draft picks that can be a plus, and you have a healthy Daron Payne and a healthy Phidarian Mathis, so on and so forth, coming back to this defense. You want to add a Chase Young to this particular team when you have a young quarterback on the opposite side of the field that's going to need help getting the ball back in his hands to help him grow as well. So it's a lot. It's a lot to go into it, but all that to say, you want to Chase Young on this team, and you want to do everything you can to motivate him to be able to get the money that he deserves.
D-Mitty, I'll get ready to close with this. You look at a guy like Chase Young, right? And you say, hey, what could he be for us? This is the exact move that you do because, and I hate using this word, but it's the truth. The Commanders have control over the next couple of years of his career, right? Yeah. You don't sign him this year to the 4th-year extension. Next year he balls out, or this season he balls out. You come back to the table with the, with a good offer for him. If he doesn't like the offer, cool, we can franchise you. Like they can drag this out. They can slow walk this situation for the next 2 to 3 years to still get some production out of him. And it's only in Chase Young's benefit to play as best as he can to either get a big deal with us or put himself in a position to get a big deal somewhere else.
To hit the free agency block and have a bunch of bidders that will make it easier for him to get paid more. And I wish him the best of luck, man. I just said this earlier, and I hope that Chase Young comes out and have a ballerific year where he gets about 7+ sacks, get some fumbles for us, and some fumble recoveries and maybe an interception. So that way he can put those those naysayers to bed and get paid.
Absolutely, D-Mitty, absolutely. Now, guys, we appreciate you tuning in and checking out another quick episode of Breaking Command, a DND football.
Wait, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
It's draft eve. Who do you have us taking at 16?
Well, they're gonna have to tune in later for that. No, I'm joking. No, I'll give it to you real quick. I'll give it to you real quick. With the 16th pick, I believe the Commanders are going to trade back. I think they're going to trade back into the early to mid 20s and acquire some more picks. I just think that Ron Rivera and team with their roster, I feel like they're in a good situation with their roster, and I feel like they can go multiple different ways with guys. And I think if they see an opportunity to kind of build some more, get some more picks and get some more draft capital, they'll do it. Same way they did it last year. And last year it turned out to be a good selection for them. What you think?
That's my plan B. My plan A is best player available. One of the 3 players that'll be there will be either Dalton Kincaid, Brian Branch, or I hate to say his name because you and I be on Twitter Spaces and
don't you say it. Don't you say it.
Can I say? I'm not gonna say it.
We already have a Robinson on our team. We don't need.
But I would love to see one of those guys based on how I've been seeing these mock drafts go as far as best player available and how these teams ahead of us are going to pick in regards to the first 2 picks possibly in quarterbacks and Gonzalez and Witherspoon being the top DBs, and teams in that top 10 are really looking at adding positional value on the boundary of defenses based on how this league is going. All that to say that there's not going to be a guy like a Witherspoon and Gonzalez that we would need to add and go henceforth to what you were saying, moving down. So if they move down, that's a great plan. Move down with a team like the Saints or the Ravens or somebody in that 22 to 30 range, and you acquire a 3rd round pick this year, what have you, and you're still in the game just like you did last year by moving down, getting Jahan Dotson, Brian Robinson, and Sam Howell. So if they can do that again, they get a gold medal from me.
And I'll put something to bed. I'm not opposed to them drafting Bijan at all. I'm opposed to drafting Bijan or a running back early in the 1st round when you have other positions of impact that needs to be filled.
Absolutely.
If you can get a dynamic defensive back, or if you can get a dynamic offensive lineman, I would be more inclined to even go tight end before I go running back.
That's why Dalton Kincaid is high for me.
Yeah. So like I'm not opposed to Bijan. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just opposed to it at the 16th pick. Granted, he may be dynamic, he may be that dude, but I feel like already on our roster, we have dynamic guys that will touch the ball a plethora of times in this new Eric Bieniemy offense. And I feel like you want to give the opportunity for Brian to tote it. You want to give the opportunity for AG to tote it. You want to give Curtis Samuel the opportunity to get out there and
touches.
Like you want to give some of those guys a chance. Now, if he falls to you, if you trade it back in the 2nd round somewhere and he falls to you early, all right, go ahead. You can do it.
And not to expand the conversation any further, but to kind of put it at this: if Bijan is that high on a lot of people's boards and he slips to 16, there could be a team like the Chargers that will have once again going to our option of trading down that they may want to move up for him there, and you acquire your later round pick. So I think that all that with what you said as far as on the field and with what other teams have going on. Bijan is it's not a matter of his talent. It's a matter of comprising your team to win and what you currently have in your roster.
Absolutely. Now, D Mitty, I'll say this. I'm kind of upset that this is the only pre-draft talk that the fans will get, but it may or may not be because the draft doesn't start until 7 p.m., 8 p.m. tomorrow, and we still have more than 24 hours. So if we're maximizing our days and our opportunities, we may get in a pre-draft episode. Who knows?
You never know. Stay tuned, people. Like, subscribe, and share.
I'm gonna tell you, the subscribers will know. They'll know early. They'll hit that notification button, and then it'll come right to their phone. Oh, they got a pre-draft episode. You might get it. You might get it. Just stay tuned. We'll see.
Stay tuned.
But for my man D Mitty, and of course myself, DH, we want to thank you for tuning in to another quick version of the Breaking Command, of Breaking Command, a DND football podcast. Like I said, more guests coming down the pipeline as we prepare for the regular season. A lot to talk about, a lot of position matchups, a lot of draft breakdowns that we'll do after the draft, but so much more to come. We appreciate you here for this quick episode. And as always, left hand up. Who are we?
The Commanders.
You already know what it is. Peace and love, everybody.